This podcast is brought to you by Kion Aminos and all Kion products. Watch the video at the end of the podcast for more details.
Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show. I'd like to thank J23 for the intro music. You can find a link to her music in the show description. Today is a special episode. I'm here in person. This might only be the second time I've done an in-person interview. I'm here with my new friend, Michael Pottern, and we are here at his business, Zenden, here in Denver, Colorado, on location. And I just experienced, I went through, I don't know how to describe it. I went through the experience, and we're going to talk a little bit about that and my experience. But first off, welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm stoked. We met, I don't know, just like maybe a few months ago, and we kind of hit it off, and I just happened to be in town, and we're doing an event tonight, kind of co-hosting it here. So yeah, very super stoked. But maybe tell the audience a little bit about your background and how you got into doing like what I just experienced a few minutes ago.
Yeah, so Michael Pottern, and what we do at the Denver Zen Den is we create what we say is IMAX for the soul experiences. So we use light, sound, vibration, and frequency in a multimodal approach that when they're woven together can really create a nervous system reset, as well as you're entraining the brain patterns. So you're actually getting down into alpha, theta, so much more into that intuitive state. So good for that neuroplasticity, and I think also just to find respite and inspiration in each day.
Yeah, that was amazing. I'll get more into like what I experienced, but what brought you to doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, so originally I started off my career in real estate and had a brokerage in Chicago for about 10 years. From that, I kind of learned, how to bridge people looking for something when they don't know exactly what they're looking for. And then also at that time that I was exiting my first business, got involved with the David Lynch Foundation, helping bring meditation to public schools in the Chicago area. That really landed for me in a way that showed me kind of how wellness was becoming more and more of a thing that was going to be prevalent, not only for people looking to, connect to the higher sense of things, but like just how inner city youth is finding this meaningful, even crime citizenship and things like that. So it's been a really inspirational journey to see how meditation can affect people's lives. And then from there, got into just more the path of wellness myself, and started a tech platform that was called Find My Zen. And that was all about more like a healthy trip advisor where you would discover wellness in different cities.
Okay, cool.
And we expanded to 12 other cities starting in 2020. Half of our partners went out of business 6 months later.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we've kind of been in a beautiful place of just listening to, what's needed from not only wellness, but also where I think technology can really enhance wellness and allow people more accessibility, more depth, and even more structure that can be exciting. Yeah, we can get into that as well.
Yeah, and I love, exploring, the audience knows I'm a bit of a self-experimenter, so always trying new things. So I appreciate, again, what we're going to get into here. And I just love the fact that your journey has been about, bringing wellness to more people, and the inner city youth and, people that's not the traditional model. People are not getting this. Inner city youth are not getting this. So I love that. Earlier on, you said, the modality we just did, light, sound, and vibration. So maybe I'll just share my experience, and then maybe you can pick some of those. So I started kind of with the vibrate, very, very cool, bed, I guess, for lack of a better term, or maybe that is the term. Very, very comfortable. I was like, I'm gonna fall asleep here. I had a long day. You can tell it's nighttime outside. I had a long day, so very, very comfortable. And the vibration started going, and I have to say, I felt like I was floating. the way, and I could feel the vibration move throughout my body, and kind of felt like I was up and I was rising, and I logically know I'm like stationary in a bed, but I felt like I was floating. And then when the lights, and you told me afterwards, I won't wreck it because I want you to explain it. But had my eyes closed, listening to the music, and I could just see all these different sort of uh, images and visions, and it would constantly change. I even saw people's faces, quite, I've shared this before, when I've done psilocybin, what that felt like, of sort of that psychedelic floating through space type thing. I felt the exact same type of thing, and then some. So that was kind of my experience. And yeah, so, and then, and in all different colors, and changed, and the scenery changed and everything. But tell me how what it actually is.
So yeah, so we actually coined the term sober psychedelic to kind of create a little bit of accessibility to what it even you experience, because so many people are saying, I'd love to share about this. This was so meaningful. And then they're like, but I don't know what it would say because it is a very personal thing. It is all white light. So your eyes are closed. And what's happening is three things are happening for the brain, because the brain is getting information, because the optic nerve is still getting this information. The brain's getting curious because it's like, wait, I'm not getting usually the image and all the other context. So what is this? So it'll actually start to entrain into those different frequencies. So we're using alpha, theta mostly, and sometimes we'll go up to gamma or even down to delta if we're really looking to improve somebody's sleep and things like that. But when you get into that more flow state kind of place, then there's also so much more receptivity for the body, and that you're not in that flight or fight state. Secondly, because there's no image coming to the brain decides to come up with colors and patterns that are very awe-inspiring. So it is all white light, but your brain is coming in up with colors your eyes can't even see. Just like your ear has a range of what it can hear, same with the eyes. So your brain is actually seeing colors that, again, do parallel what usually people will experience in a sober or in a psychedelic experience, but we're obviously not using the medicine. And then the third part, which I think is actually the most curious for me, is that because you're distracting that flight or fight system and then deploying that vibroacoustic therapy, what can we do there with the fascia? Because you just spoke about feeling levitating, and we're using 10 different transducers that are underneath that separate those low frequencies in a way that we can even go bilateral, and feeling it move through the body can create really great impact for release. But especially if you take the guard away, that is where I think get really more curious about, as I say, the issues that are in the tissues, or the body keeps the score. Do we need to go into so much the talk therapy and trying to analyze things, or can we actually just reset the nervous system through sensory saturation, pushing a lot of information through the computer?
Okay, so many good things there. So first off, we're gonna take this. I find that fascinating that when you're in a relaxed state, if not in fight or flight, and then with the, you said transistors, I think you said. So with the
Transducers, yeah.
the vibration, that actually works the fascia, which is again probably our largest organ throughout our bodies. I never heard that before, so that's quite interesting. And then for someone who does work with my clients on the unconscious mind, so and I think all therapies have their role, right? I've said that before, but I think talk therapy is not the most effective. So I'm just super curious of using like that'd be an interesting experiment, the same type combination, and then maybe through the headset actually having unconscious mind work really at the same time. That'd be an interesting experience to.
So
maybe somebody's doing that already.
Well, so we actually have over 200 different experiences pre-planned already.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so you just got to experience 3 different ones. So there are ones that are more paired with different modalities, whether that's breath work, subconscious work. But what I get more excited about is that we have a business in a box that then therapists and coaches are then bringing into their own office, and then just developing their own audio that goes with the sessions. Because then you really are complementing both the trust, because I think trust is paramount in this business.
100%.
So if there's already connection to the voice, or we're also exploring AI, and then of course, putting that back in their own voice, where they're hearing themselves in their own process. We have different, I think, you have the more etheric, non-attached, kind of more let's float and see where it takes, or you have people that need more of that structured guidance.
Right.
So there's a little bit of both for everybody.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought it up because we had this privately in a conversation about your business in a box for other practitioners. So the audience spans a whole bunch of people of all ranges. So maybe explain a bit more about that aspect of the business in the box.
Yeah, so we've been in business, the Denver Zen Den, for 3 years now. I'd say the first year was really doing education for the market. It was a new product, a new experience, a new wellness engagement. I think the stroboscopic light has been around, and vibroacoustic therapy has been around. We're weaving things together differently and really trying to create as I said, a multimodal approach, but in a care pathway so that there is preparation and integration. The clients get sent journal prompts and things like that to really prep and prime them for their experience. But over the 3 years, we've really just built the trust. As I said, I think that's first and foremost what needs to happen, because if a client can trust the experience, they can go that much further. So we've won awards. We've really built that kind of grounded place that there's recognizable, things that people can point to, so that that doesn't need to be rebuilt. So that was the foundation. And then there's all the templates that we kind of learned over the years of here's the best technology. There is lots of different variations of the technology out there. I think we've come up with the perfect stack of that. And then there's also just good, better, best versions of that. So depending on if you're just using it for personal use or one-on-one client use where you just need 5-10 minutes, that's different than what you would experience here at the Zenden, which is more 60-90 minute full experiences where you really are disconnecting and having that opportunity to kind of connect to self again.
So if people are not local to Denver here, how many practitioners have been trained or bought the business in a box? Like are they all over the United States, the world? Like, can people find a practitioner somewhere?
So right now there's we've had 30 people that are deploying the technologies in different ways. Whether we have people in Topanga Canyon that are bringing this in more for that kind of film industry, how to create more immersive experience parties and gatherings. And then we have Ayurvedic people up in Seattle that are bringing this in a beautiful way and pairing this with, again, different modalities. There's a wide range of where that's going to go. What I think is going to be more exciting is that when we really get into both the ability to track data and use either the Muse head device or just even biometrics like the Aura Ring to really start to get data that can show this is really moving the needle of both the nervous system. And if we can prime somebody that much more for a deeper therapy with a coach or a therapist, or even something that's like a big speech or something like that, if you can kind of clear out that energy and that stuckness, I get more curious about what we can empower.
That's interesting, being kind of a biohacking geek and all about quantification, pairing it with Muse or any other device like that. That'd be very interesting to see what that data actually shows.
So we actually a number of our clients who have like the Whoop, it'll start to register that they're going into nap state, which shows it's actually what's called a hypnagogic state. So it's a state in between kind of awake and dreams. And so that's a really meaningful,
like trance, when people feel in trance. Yeah,
exactly. So that's a really meaningful place to let everything, because you have everything alive and online that you're taking off again, that like protector model. And I think everything can really just get nourished in that deeper state of restorativeness. Especially if you pair that with beautiful music and or other thematic things that bring safety, inspiration, and now layering in things like AI, we can really make customized experiences where it can be, your own mind movie.
Yeah, you mentioned it a few minutes ago about, maybe the person's own voice. So I get to see a lot of modalities or other coaches or therapists, what have you, whether the client is maybe, has some affirmations that they or come up with or something, and then layer that in so they can hear it themselves. It's one thing to hear, look in the mirror and say your own affirmations. It's another thing to be listening to your own voice of those affirmations or what have you. But and doing the rest of the process as well.
Yeah, and I mean that gets into like yoga nidra and sankalpa work and planting the seed. And I feel like we're even more in that space of a liminal place that we can really actually plant those seeds, and then utilize other ways to just kind of keep watering that soil. Because I really do feel that this is a computer in a lot of ways with the spirit inside. So if we can actually connect the two, that inspired awe feeling paired with, okay, what are we replacing once we clear out the system? It can be an ally to so many different modalities, as well as just for connection with others. We have a lot of couples that come in and this is their favorite date night thing because they get to like start here and then go home and be much more in that
I
intuitive
noticed there's
place.
two beds, but people like do it together, two partners. Yeah. So going back to my original question, is there like a directory where people can, like, if they go to Zen Den website, does it show like other practitioners who are using your system and where they're located, Seattle, et cetera? Like,
So right now we will be building that in Q1, but if you go to mindwave.biz, that is our kind of the business in a box side of things.
okay,
And there's also, where I would say initially is that there's a lot of, sound, music, frequency things that are really, I think, kind of cutting edge that we can deploy in a way that is, non-location specific. And there are good, better, best versions of the technology. There's even an app called Luminate on the phone that uses just a flashlight. And so I'd say it's more about being in the river with us and, saying I'm curious about all of this because we're going to have a lot of different pathways. It's not just our thing. I really want this to be just the beginning of this renaissance of where wellness and technology kind of converge.
yeah, that's very cool. And don't worry, everyone, you don't have to rewind and get that. Like, we'll have all the links and everything in the show notes, so you don't have to. You just keep on listening there. Fascinating. Yeah, it was fantastic experience. Like you said, there's other modalities that have been around for a while, and I think and use the word stacking in a different sense, but I think that is so important. Where it's like, as we learn more, as we gather more data, as people just generally as society become more aware, like, I think it's super important to try new things, stack the best, like, let if you people like yourself like do all the legwork for you, and it's like, okay, this is the gold standard, and okay, maybe you can't afford the gold standard or whatever, but like, then here's the silver standard. There's ranges for everyone, but like, try things. Like, it's so powerful, this type of reset, if you will.
Yeah, and I love that you brought that up, and paired with earlier, the psychedelic renaissance that of course we're experiencing here in Colorado, where psychedelics are legal now. But Michael Pollan, I think, in his book How to Change Your Mind, I think there's a lot more signal in what people are needing and are on the sidelines saying, hey, I need something. And I'm not okay with myself in the way that I've structured things, and I need to figure out how to both find myself again because I've really just disconnected and I don't know who I am anymore, whether I'm a parent and just 2 years in and I don't know. I've never, I just don't have a chance to even connect with myself anymore. To veterans that we work with and people that are way down the line of like disconnection from the normal I think you know human experience in certain ways, that if we can just open that up a little bit and give them access to that felt experience, most things kick back in. And I think that's what psychedelics can of course help with, but if we can do that in ways that are even more above board, whether it's the legality of it or whether it's also, I do need to go back to my life and I can't go down to Costa Rica or, wherever to do the
Right.
medicine or, we can do it here, of course, now, but, there's just so much of that. So again, that transformation without the travel can really be a meaningful thing because then you're also in the place that you have the ruffles of life. I think that we need to actually acknowledge that we need to have ability to hold both, not just be the monk sitting quiet.
Yeah, and that's a good point. We don't have to go down this path, but there's certainly very, just speaking of psychedelics, there's very skillful, thoughtful, intentional facilitators, shamans, guides, teachers, whatever you want to call them. And then there's a bunch of other people as well. And there's a lot of people, I was having a conversation with some of your colleagues 2 nights ago about, almost anyone can just call themselves a facilitator, and they somehow get some supply of something and you don't know quality and you don't know whatever, that type of thing. And so I'm all for that, like for psychedelics, but in a proper intentional way. And if that is a little bit beyond our comfort zone, this type of start here or start somewhere, baby step in, and don't, try to prove and do ayahuasca your first thing, because like I feel like something's a little off. That's maybe not the first step for you, right? So
unless you want to write a really good book about it.
yeah, fair enough.
But no, I'm just saying, I think that, when it calls, it's calling. But at the same time, for most people, it's like a yes and. It's like, how do I still balance that calling, that need to explore and connect in a different way? And also just find reprieve. I mean, at the end of the day, who's taking care of, the first responders, who's taking care of the parents, who's tending to those nervous systems. And if we can just clear that out, I think we'd be in a much more hospitable world right now.
100%, 100%. So as we slowly start to wrap up, outside of your own modalities, what are some health non-negotiables for you, or morning routine, or whatever, however you want to answer the question?
So I would say that the non-negotiables are, I've created a life that I really want to live into. And so I get to have the choice to work with the right people and really surround myself. And so I think that continuing to tend to that garden of like, who's really in that river with me. Clients are of course clients, but who are we co-creating with is, I would say, a non-negotiable of just, I do want that play to feel alive. I want to feel like it's jazz. So I'd say because I'm in a business that is so co-creative right now in this stage, that's the first thing I think about, because that non-negotiable almost then provides a magnet of the right people that are like, I want that as well. And so it seems to then provide much more ease than everywhere else, because I don't have to play defense. I don't have to create unnecessary structures.
Great, love that answer. I don't think we've had quite that type of answer before on the show, so I love that. What is here's a question you hear sometimes. It's one of my standards.
And some lemon water.
And some lemon water. Yeah, there we go. We've had that one. What is obviously a very, you explained a high level earlier, quite a journey. If you could go back to your 20-year-old self or some earlier period in your life and give that earlier version of you some advice, words of wisdom, like what would you say?
Figure out how to layer in creativity into my life. I think it was very much, had a real estate company at the age of 24, and got fairly large quickly. And I thought travel and making money were my two passions. And I feel I'm very fortunate to, at this age, in my 40s, find an opportunity to connect into that ability to express that way, because I think it's part of what is going to keep us sane moving into the future.
Awesome. Love that answer. What would you, as maybe parting words to the audience, what would you love them to know about yourself, this modality, or just anything, life in general, or philosophy in general?
Somebody just shared this with me today, is to literally put, two 2-hour blocks a week into your calendar, just for time for you. And that can look like a spa, that can look like all kinds of things, reading a book, but I think not assigning here's what that needs to be and just saying what's actually needed could be a really interesting process to check in with, twice a week, because that almost gives you a better barometer of really where you're at.
I love that question. I've talked about this many times. I schedule, and depending on how you define self-care, right? But I, have probably 4 to 4.5 hours of self-care in my day every day, but it is almost scheduled.
Mhm.
I'm going to work out at this time. I'm going to do my sauna and my meditation at this time. And it's not very free flow and what do I actually need at this time? So I'm gonna take that away for myself and see and think on that if that is maybe something I need to put more into my life.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more flexibility and play maybe in my own self-care time.
I love that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, any one last thing for maybe guys?
Just enjoying you, Deepak.
I
As
appreciate it, my friend. I
we,
appreciate it.
but I like to share, just when you meet people and you feel that gravity and that kind of like, oh, I'm curious about their journey. I think usually it's more meaningful to tug at that, because I think those are the things that we can, think are a dime a dozen, but they're usually not. But so when those opportunities are there to go deeper, make sure to make space for that. Put it
Absolutely.
in the calendar.
Put it in the calendar. Yeah, I love that. All right, like I said, we're gonna have all the links, to connect with Michael on social and check out, everything and find a practitioner near you if you're not near Denver. That'll all be in the show notes. Also, don't forget to check out today's show sponsor. Oh, I almost forgot. Michael took some pictures and maybe, I don't know, did you do video as well? Yeah, of me going through it. So we'll have that at the end. So make sure you watch all the way through the end. And there's some footage of me being super zen. So that'll be at the end of this video. So yeah, check out today's show sponsor. And again, thank you for watching the Deepak Sane Show. Michael, thank you for being a guest today. So remember, you are an exceptional person and you are going to do exceptional things. This podcast was sponsored by Kion and Kion Aminos in particular. This is my favorite post-workout thing to do. People are always talking about you need more protein. Super important, especially as we age, as we're trying to maintain our lean muscle mass. Super important for both men and women. And essentially protein, that chicken, those eggs, whatever you're taking, breaks down into amino acids, which is what our body actually needs, what our muscle tissues actually uses. And essential amino acids, which these are, is what your body cannot produce, but they are essential for you. So you need to get them from food. And as with many other things, we're not getting the same nutrients anymore from our foods. And certainly if we're not eating the right protein sources, we're not getting our essential amino acids. So I love the Kion brand, number one, because they stay on top of the research. They are always reiterating their formula when new research comes out, and they're tweaking it. I think they've tweaked it 2 or 3 times already. So I love that about a brand. I use this myself to build lean muscle mass and maintain my muscle mass as I'm aging. So use a coupon code there to get 10% off of not only the essential amino acids, but all Kion products as well.
Podcast produced by the Minted Green Company